Hello, and this is Kurokami, and I'm back for yet another Junji Ito anime collection review. Today I'll be covering episode 4, which covered the two manga chapters, The Chill and The House of Puppets. The Chill being 32 pages, and The House of Puppets being 60 pages of the original manga. This was a strange episode to say the least, as Junji Ito continues to both entertain and discuss us with his over-the-top stories. Sorry about last episode, that it was so long. I'll try to keep this one a little quicker this week, but we'll see. Oh, and before we hop into the story, same as always, spoiler warning is in effect, as I will in detail review the whole episode. Now that that's out of the way, let's get creepy. The Chill begins in an unnamed town and focuses on the young boy named Yuji. Now Yuji is a good kid, but also very observant as well. Recently, he can't help but to notice a strange doctor that seems to stop by his neighbor's house daily. This would not set off any bells at first, since the neighbor's child, Rina, has been sick recently, but how the doctor approaches the house is a real concern. Instead of using the front door like a normal person, this man emerges out of the tall, unkept brush in the neighbor's backyard that has been left overgrown due to the lack of maintenance. It only gets worse as Rina seems to hate the doctor, as every time he pays them a visit, Rina screams uncontrollably. What is this doctor doing to make such a young girl become so hysterical at the mere glance of this man? She also seems to hate bugs, as she often freaks out about them as well. Once in a while she glares outside, and if she sees Yuji, Rina will always show a small smile. Unfortunately, this is where the train takes a wrong turn, as it's revealed that Rina's entire body is covered in small holes. This triggers a horrible memory for Yuji, as his grandfather died from these very holes that literally covered every inch of his body. Rina's mother seemed not to like the fact that Rina enjoys the fresh air, as her mother always pulls her away every time. Yuji, knowing for a fact that these two cases are connected, he discusses it over with his best friend Hideo. Though Yuji had instructed Hideo not to tell anyone about this issue at hand, it did not stop him from asking his mom about the situation. Being a nurse, however, she remembered seeing Rina after birth, that she developed holes all over her body and actually seemed to breathe through them. After discovering Yuji's late grandfather's diary, the kids find a picture of a strange jade stone. Unfortunately, the anime leaves out some of the details about how Yuji's grandfather obtained the stone, but that's okay. As they continue to read the diary, it becomes blatantly obvious that Yuji's grandfather is slowly going crazy, as he describes holes slowly beginning to open up all over his body, even going into as much detail as describing insects burrowing into his skin through these holes as they crawl around inside of his body. With his last bit of energy, Yuji's grandfather then throws the stone into the neighbor's yard, as he knew it was the stone that caused the curse. Strangely enough, this unknown doctor showed up many times unannounced, giving the poor man many injections of strange fluid. Yuji knew he was right about his grandfather's death. Now, being the caring boy he is, Yuji knew he could not stand to let poor Rina suffer the same curse as his grandfather did, but unlike the anime, Yuji searches for the stone so he can get rid of it. In the anime, a figure finds it who can just barely be made out. Again, the usual torment for Rina continues as the doctor continues to visit the poor girl. By this point, Yuji can't stop thinking about the curse and everything linked to it, remembering those last words of the doctor after declaring Yuji's grandfather had died. Again, returning to his friend Hideo, Yuji asks him if he should let people know about the curse, only to be warned that his very own family might be blamed for the sickness if he is to talk about it. Strangely enough, when Yuji was back at home, he saw Rina outside in the backyard with a perfect body. Not a single hole. How could this happen? As for the anime, instead of now, the scene was saved for last. That night there was some crazy wind that was strong enough to even shut off the power. After hearing some knocking on his window, Yuji heads over to investigate, only to find a monster on the other side. A man with holes penetrating just about every inch of his body. As it turns out, this monster was actually Hideo, as we find out that the curse was actually transferred to him after he found the stone in the neighbor's yard. Hideo was not able to resist the allure of the precious stone. Even trying to throw it away many times, Hideo just couldn't bring himself to let it go. Imagine how it would feel for high winds to blow through your whole body as holes invite any unwanted guest inside. Unfortunately, this was only the beginning of Hideo's torment, as the strange doctor had begun mercilessly chasing the poor boy. Just as he came, he ran away just as fast, with the doctor in close pursuit. This, however, would be the last time Junji would ever see his friend alive again, as Hideo's body would be found by the riverbank the next day. The Jade Stone nowhere to be found. Next up is the story The House of Puppets, which by far is a strange story. Just like the other story did, this story cut out some scenes as well, but they are not that important. Let's hop into it though. This story covers a family that travels the country performing puppet shows for children, which seems innocent enough, but show business is not all glory. Getting a little bit more backstory, we see the main protagonist, Haruhiko's father, is not the nicest people. His wife left him with 3 children, and he seems to care more about his puppets than his actual children. This leads Haruhiko's father to be quite strict with them, as he expects his own children to become puppeteers as well. Since Haruhiko's family is never at the same place for more than a month, the poor boy is never in the same school for long. This means that he can never make long-lasting friends or have what anyone can call a normal life. After entering his new school, Haruhiko finds himself being befriended by a fellow classmate, Kinoko. She seems to like the fact that they are traveling puppeteers. After finding out that Haruhiko's family lives in a truck, Kinoko asks if she can come over to see their puppets. Hanging in the truck are all kinds of interesting puppets, but one stands out more than the rest. Junji, the magician, is a creepy one that seems to not only not fit in, but looks like it would scare any child that saw it. This was Haruhiko's older brother, Yukihiko's favorite. Being an immature child, Haruhiko tries scaring Kinoko with the creepy puppet, only to have her swatted up against the wall. Poor puppet, right? But just as Haruhiko's family came to this town, they left just as soon as their father's work had been completed. As they drove away, Haruhiko's only friend here, Kinoko, sees them off as she swears they will meet again someday. As one would think, living in a truck, never staying in the same place for long, and being broke all of the time since puppeteering was not a very profitable business, feelings were sure to boil over. This is where Haruhiko's brother, Yukihiko, states his discontent with their lives. If Dad ever got sick, I guess that'd solve it all, Yukihiko stated. Well, Yukihiko got what he was wishing for, as soon later their father became bedridden due to an illness. Even after stepping away from the spotlight, their father's love for puppets did not dwindle one bit. As he continued to play with his puppets in bed, he told his 3 children just how wonderful puppets are, that humans control the very heart and soul of these wooden toys. Yukihiko is done with it, as that night he explains to Haruhiko that their father is wrong. People do not control puppets, it is the puppets that control them. It wasn't that much later till Yukihiko ran away and Haruhiko and his younger sister Natsumi were left alone with their shriveling father, who half a year later died anyway. After Haruhiko graduated from junior high, he and Natsumi moved out on their own as Haruhiko took up a factory job to support himself and his younger sister. But look who they ran into after all of these years. It's Kinoko, Haruhiko's only true childhood friend. It wasn't long till the two got close, as Kinoko's visits became the norm, until one day Haruhiko received a letter from his long-lost brother. After reading the letter, Haruhiko and Natsumi go over to visit their brother, who surprisingly lives close by. After entering their brother's house, the two are faced with a familiar face. It is the puppet Junji, the creepy puppet that Yukihiko owned. But where was their brother, and how was the puppet moving on its own? They look up to see the entire ceiling is cut as to where the strings of the puppet can move wherever it wanted in the house. What could be weirder than this? Oh yeah, Not only Haruhiko's brother, but also his wife and child became human puppets themselves, as they too are strung up just like Jinpire. Over dinner, Yukihiko explains how he got this house and how he became successful, and that it was all thanks to Jinpire. If it couldn't get any more creepy, Yukihiko reveals 3 human-sized ballerina puppets that he had made just for this day. Their blank, dead faces could send a chill down anybody's spine. Haruhiko finally asks the question that we're all thinking. Are you guys being controlled from the ceiling? Yukihiko quickly replies that yes, they are, and that they are being supported by piano wire all day long, thanks to some hired help who is in the ceiling who controls them. Yukihiko makes it clear though that the puppeteers may think they are in control, but it is in fact the puppets themselves that are the true masters. Natsumi, loving puppets, begs Haruhiko for them to return. They then find themselves returning quite frequently, and though Natsumi loves it, Haruhiko just can't accept the strange lifestyle his brother has adopted. The creepy ballerina puppets even seem to have taken a liking to Haruhiko, which, in my opinion, is on a whole nother level of creepy. Still worried about his older brother, Haruhiko asks his brother if he gets out of this creepy house every once in a while, only to be told that they have lived like human puppets for around 2 years now, all the time never leaving the house once. After begging to try out being a human puppet herself, Natsumi becomes a ballerina too, as she is now controlled by unknown people. Fed up with it all, Haruhiko demands that Natsumi gets down and that they are leaving, but is shocked as she tells him she's going to live here and that Haruhiko can leave by himself if he wants to. Now a couple, both Haruhiko and Kinuko live together, but she's worried as Haruhiko never talks to her, and he's been acting quite strange recently. Haruhiko assures Kinuko all is well, only thinking that he does not want her to be around his brother. Continuing his visits, Haruhiko eventually finds himself being dragged off by the creepy ballerina puppets. What could they possibly want with him alone? Turns out they want him to become a human puppet as well. He only laughs at them, telling them it will never happen. After tailing him, Kinoko finds herself at Yukihiko's house, only to think that she has just caught her boyfriend cheating on her. When she makes it inside, she sees a familiar face. It's Jinpire. An evil grin appears on his face. Upstairs, the ballerina puppets out of nowhere begin acting crazy as one even tries choking Haruhiko. Dashing back to the others, Haruhiko finds them all being pulled against their will frantically. Yukihiko screams at old Jinpire that is doing it. In the manga, Haruhiko is able to see into the ceiling where he finds multiple men, all puppeteers in a trance-like state as they torture the people below. After trying to stop them, Haruhiko is kicked down by one of them. He then spots Jinpire and commences to follow it, only to find a gruesome sight. There strung up is the lifeless body of his murdered girlfriend Kinoko. Even after death, her body continues to move as she is controlled from above. Seems like Jinpire got his revenge after what she did to him all of those years ago. After trying to make Haruhiko his next victim, Haruhiko smashes the puppet into pieces, and just like that, Kinoko's body ceases to move. Haruhiko returns to the others to find them as well dangling. His sister, now too weak to even move as she has not used her own muscles in such a long time. Looking above, even the puppeteers lay lifeless in the ceiling. Haruhiko calls out to his brother as well, only to discover that they are all lifeless puppets. Did they turn into puppets after being strung up from Jinpire's magic? Or were they puppets all along? Again, yet another question Junji leaves for us. Okay, that was today's episode of the Junji Ito anime collection. I really hope you all enjoyed this video, and please leave some love and support in the comment section below. Please like and subscribe for more content. I'd greatly appreciate it. And sorry this video is a little late. It's just, I'm just trying to get better every time I make videos, and I was tired as crap last night. So, okay, this is Kurokami, and I'm signing off.